Hello, hello. It says I'm live. Is it true? Am I really alive? And I don't know who this Teresa Combs is. If Teresa's a real person, then hello. And if you're just like some kind of bot, then I guess I wouldn't say hello to a bot. But I have no idea. I don't want to accuse somebody of being a bot that's actually a real solid human. Let's see. How's my hat? How's my hair? I think that's good. Don't want to hide my eyes. I want you to be able to feel like you can trust me, right? Okay. And so I'm on time, but of course I'm not prepared. That's all right. I'm never prepared. I mean, honestly, is anybody? Everything is a work in progress as far as I'm concerned. But I do my best. I'm happy to be here with you today. I missed doing a live yesterday, but I did do yoga stuff yesterday. Everything I say is simply my opinion for the sake of hoping to start a conversation, open up a discussion, learn something, be educational. All my videos are made for YouTube, and it's an infotainment platform. So please hit your like button if you'd be so kind, and make sure you're still subscribed. Turn on your notification bell to ring, and share a video of mine with somebody that you think might like my channel. So Fred Field, the last time I had a live, which was the day before yesterday, he came on and said he had been unsubbed. Now that's crazy. He's one of my old faithfuls, but that's what happens. That's how they do it. So, I always just try to stay positive, and that's why I'm here, is to keep myself positive and hopefully keep some other people positive too while I'm at it. Did I do my little disclaimer? OMG, I've been doing this brain fart every time at the beginning of the video. Like, I think I just did it, didn't I? Everything I say is simply my opinion for the sake of hoping to start a conversation, open up a discussion, learn something, be educational. All my videos are made for YouTube. It's an infotainment platform. It's just crazy brain fart when you're like, wait, did I say it? Did I not say it? And I've been doing that, I think, like the last 3 videos in a row. So anyway, I came on today because I have a lot of Trumpstein files crap I want to get off my chest. So how is my sound? Is it working out all right? Let's see. And I got the puppy dogs locked out in the backyard because it's a really gorgeous day outside. And man, they just drive me nuts with all the scratching at the door. They want in, they want out. They can't make up their mind, like little kitty cats, but they're dogs. It's not supposed to be like that. I'll give you guys a few minutes to come on in to the chat. No one's here. But, I really do wonder if I'm being extra shadow banned because of the things that I put in my thumbnails and my titles. And as much as it is really inspiring to interact with the audience, with the viewers, which is why I come on live rather than just do pre-recorded, as much as it's really inspiring, it's also like, whether I have an audience of 1 or 100, it's almost immaterial to me. I try to just come on and speak from the heart and not have a script. I have my notes, so I know the things that I want to say, because I'm telling you, it's like stage fright. When you come on live, you just go brain dead. I don't think it's just me. I think it's kind of a performance anxiety that a lot of people have. So check out my new necklace. I wore it a couple of days ago, but I didn't point it out to you guys. I love it. I did not make it. It is so cool, but it is really annoying because it has these chains that are pretty, but they do love to twist themselves up. So the victims, the survivors that are scheduled to speak on Tuesday, today's Friday, the 29th of August, we're about to embark on to our Labor Day weekend, which officially marks the end of summer. We all know this. Memorial Day is the official start of summer, or unofficial. And then Labor Day is the end. And the day after Labor Day is basically fall, and it's when everything kicks into full gear, full swing. School and just buckling down. A lot of people are probably on vacation right now, or if they're not at the end of a vacation, they're going to take a vacation for the weekend. But we know that Congress takes the entire month of August off, and they were dismissed early because Trumpstein files. And lo and behold, it hasn't gone away, just like we all predicted, right? There's been a ton of tragedies that have happened over the last 5 or 6 weeks, but I don't think anything is going to take people's eye off the ball of stopping child predators. There's nothing more important to most of us. Children are so vulnerable, they're so impressionable, they're so precious, whether they are our children or someone else's children. I think it's really just like human instinct and human nature to want to protect and fight for the kids. So we've got who I call Jiz Max, in prison. I mean, now she's been transferred to a country club, and she's probably on the brink of getting pardoned. Maybe not officially, but like unofficially. She's probably on the brink of work release. I mean, she's already transferred to the nicest prison in the country, maybe the world. And she's a child predator, the worst kind of child predator, the absolute worst kind that essentially sells kids into transporting. So we know that she worked closely with little E, and she knew little T very, very well. She's known El Presidente since at least 1986, I think, is like the earliest photograph of them together. And he knew her daddy, Robert Maxwell, who was allegedly an asset of, I think it's called the STB. It's sort of like the KBG, but for Israel rather than USSR. And he fell out of his yacht one day. I think that was 1991. Sorry, my chin is like itching, like I have a hair on it or something, a flyaway hair. I think it was about 4:30 in the morning, and he fell out of or off of the yacht, fell, jumped, was pushed, one of the above. It might not ever really be known, but when his remains were found a few hours later, he was completely unclothed. And the yacht just happened to be named after the youngest of his 9 kids, Jiz. And it is said that when she came to the yacht that day for the tragedy, that the first thing she did when she got on board was she went to the office and got a bunch of documents and shredded them. Of course, she denies that. She denies everything. She almost denies knowing little E, who was her boyfriend for years and her co-conspirator. And in her crazy, ridiculous, stupid 9-hour interview with Todd Blanche a few weeks ago, that was just released, the transcript of it or the recording of it, she said that she barely knew little E, that he was her employer and that was it. We've all seen the photos of them in each other's arms like lovers, especially the look on her face. She would just look at him with these doe eyes, and he would always have this like schmuck kind of horrible grimace on his face. But man, she really looked like in the photos of her with him, she really looks like she is head over heels infatuated or in love or something. I don't know. But essentially, the story goes that they got close after her father passed away, and she really didn't know what she was going to do for income, and she was broke. Like when he passed away, he was pretty much a baron, and he had stolen somewhere in the range of like $100 million from the pension funds of his employees. He owned a couple of major newspapers, tabloids, like similar to National Enquirer. I think he owned the Daily Mirror and the New York Post. He was a magnate, and he was a rat bastard, allegedly, apparently. And so when he died, he actually owed a lot of people a lot of money. So some people theorize that he self-unalived because of all the embarrassment and the financial trouble. Other people allege that he was essentially thrown off of his yacht because he was a double agent. So it's also said that little E could be a double agent. And that's kind of the most dangerous type of agent to be. And nobody wants to be around that. Nobody. It's pretty stupid, actually. But so is a lot of the stuff that we cover. I mean, I always say criminals would not be criminals if they were smart, because they just put their brains and their time, their effort to good use. There are a lot of crafty criminals. I like to say dumb like a fox. My own father was one. He had a very high IQ, and he was a con man, and he tried to unalive my sister and myself when we were tweens. I won't get into that at the moment. I've shared that with my viewers numerous times, and I appreciate the kind words and support, but I don't share that story to elicit sympathy. I share that story simply to demonstrate a depth of understanding of how complicated things can be, like having a really high IQ and being incredibly stupid at the same time. And loving someone, like I really loved my father, and reconciling that they would have taken your life if things had gone the way that they were planning and hoping. So that's a tough one. That's a really tough one. So, probably most of us have known someone who's done something really bad, like child molestation. And it's really hard to wrap your mind around it if it's like a teacher or coach, somebody that you really like and respect, and then you hear these stories. I think it's typical to not want to believe them and to kind of have that knee-jerk reaction. And if you know the person and like the person, it's really hard for that to sink in that it could be true. And too often, people, I think, will side with the perpetrator because they like that person, and they think, well, this person is like giving money to charity. There's no way that they would do something like that. And it's just like apples and oranges. It doesn't compare. It doesn't add up. People in positions of power abuse their power often. We see it way too often. I feel like right now it's at a level that the world has never seen, to quote their dear leader. The amount of overreach and abuse of power that this administration has is just drenched and dripping. It's disgusting. It's so over the top. I think some of that is by design to kind of make us immune to it all, to make it just, people just kind of want to give up and think there's no hope. I mean, we've got National Guards in the street. We've got shootings every day. You know, the one in Minneapolis a few days ago, I think it was the day before yesterday, that really shook people to their core. Again, kids, school, church, while in prayer, second day of school. And, you know, what gets me about all of these crimes, all these heinous crimes, is that they always have these manifestos. You know, I put it in quotes because it's like, you know, did they jot it down in a notebook? Was it like in a text? I don't think that all of these people that do these things, like Luigi Mangione or Matthew Livelsberger, the guy who was blown up in the Tesla in front of the Trump Tower in Vegas on New Year's Day, I don't think that all of these people have manifestos and that they're all writing about whether they love or hate dear leader. To me, that's a giveaway. That's a tell that these things are contrived, basically. I mean, sure, there's a lot of deranged people that will do things like go into a school and do the unthinkable or blow themselves up in their car. I mean, people do these things. I've literally known a person that did the school thing back in the 80s. I didn't know him well, but I knew him. Luckily, he didn't unalive anybody. He didn't even fire, but he held someone hostage for hours at the school. And it was the year after I graduated, so I wasn't present. I didn't hear about it for a while. But, you know, I knew a woman who set herself on fire in a car, tried to blow up the car and tried to off herself. And she survived, fortunately. It kind of knocked some sense into her. I mean, you know, you got to keep a light heart about these things too, but at the same time, you don't want to be flippant. I mean, it's really serious. People are suffering. People have trouble. People don't know how to express this, and then they lash out. You know, the self-injurious behavior is considered the etiology of the pathology of it. It's considered like a anger towards yourself, and then being angry towards other people in the world is when it's not self-injurious, but, you know, projecting onto others. So there's a fine line between self-injurious and injurious to others. There's a very fine line. Like, we've all seen the movies where someone's holding a pew and pointing it at someone, and then they hold it to their own head, and then they point it at the other person, and they're just like confused. They don't know which one to do. And I think that that can be all too real sometimes for folks. It's crazy. But there's been a lot of self-unalivings around the Trumpster fire and in his family and his close affiliates. Too many. Like, I should make a list of just the ones that I know of, because I believe that it's statistically improbable, if not impossible. So yeah, a lot of accidents, a lot of crashes of things falling out of the sky or crashing into each other in the sky, a lot of nooses, people who are found in nooses that maybe didn't necessarily put themselves in the noose, if you know what I mean. People falling. And, you know, falling off of boats, falling down flights of stairs, just falling in general, falling from grace, basically. Yeah. So let's talk specifically about some of the impending doom that I believe our dear leader is anticipating with the Tuesday rolling around. So September 3rd is when I haven't known exactly how many survivors are scheduled to testify on Tuesday in front of Congress. But what I gather most recently is that it's at least 10, and that it's a public press conference. And Anna Bees, hello, my dear. So nice to see you. How are you doing today? So yeah, after the weekend is over, Anna Bees, allegedly at least 10 survivors, little E survivors, are going to be speaking in front of Congress publicly. I'm pretty sure it's going to be videotaped, if not live streamed. I don't know. But I am excited. I'm very hopeful that none of these people have any misfortune between now and then or after then. But the misfortune happens, and it's highly suspicious when it does. Like Virginia Giuffre, her misfortune happened the day before Melania's 55th birthday. We've talked about this handfuls of times. And that was April 25th that she was found deceased on her property at her ranch in Australia. And the 26th of April, I think, was Melania's birthday. And a book is being released this coming October, a book that Virginia wrote, she co-authored, that reveals more about what she endured, things that she couldn't really say while she was living, names that she couldn't put out there while she was living. And apparently she called her co-author, called or emailed just like 2 weeks before she passed away, to make sure that there were some specific things that would be in the memoir in the event that something happened to her. And then a couple of weeks later, she's not living anymore. So, there's a lot of speculation that she self-harmed. There's a lot of speculation that it was set up to look like self-harm. That's the camp that I'm in. I definitely, that's just my opinion. I could be incorrect, but I definitely feel like she was taken out because she knew too much, and the timing is everything. So, I hadn't really wrapped my mind around it being the day before Melania's birthday, but there's so much defensiveness from Melania and from her husband about her relationship with little E and how exactly she met her husband. There's so much defensiveness that it just is like blaring red lights for me, that there's something huge there, that they're hiding something huge. And, I had to do a ton of digging to find the information that she started modeling when she was 5. Pretty much everywhere on the internet, it'll say that she was 16 when she started modeling. But she didn't instantly get famous overnight at 16. Like, that's not how modeling careers happen. You have to work hard at it. You have to network. So it's my theory that she did start when she was 5. Her mother worked in fashion design. And then she basically got famous when she was 16. So she was in Slovakia, a country that I think is next to what was once the Czech Republic. I get very confused with all of that history and everything, but essentially like a Czechoslovakian type of country that was probably more communist than any other regime. And models modeling is kind of another form of trafficking, even at its best. Even at its best, it lends itself to the transporting type of crap, and to eating disorders, and to backstabbing. And it's a hard life. It's a really hard life, even for the most successful. So for every one that's successful, there's probably 10,000 or more that aren't, that really have a rough time. So essentially, Melania started being well known at 16. So it really piques my interest of like what happened that she suddenly kind of became a success. And let's see what Anna Bees is saying. So there's a series on Hulu about Amanda Knox. I know, Amanda, I've watched it. Have you watched it? I agree. Virginia didn't take herself out. So the new series on Hulu, I think I must have mentioned it the other day when you weren't present, my dear, because you're like always here, and I love you for that. Thank you. So the new series on Hulu is produced partially by said person and Monica Lewinsky. And it's called The Twisted Tale of Amanda Knox. And it's 4 episodes, 3 of which have been released. The 4th one will be released next week. I wasn't going to watch it because I knew that it was produced by Amanda, but then I got curious, and then I watched a little, and then I was disgusted because it's just like, whoa, always me, of course. And so then I was going to rebel and not watch it, but then I watched it. I watched all 3 episodes that are released so far. And I'm glad that I have. And I'm actually planning on rewatching them, taking scrupulous notes to like basically write down bullet points of every fact that she takes from the case, from the trial, and tries to put her own spin on it, right down to the scratch on her neck that is probably like 1.5 inches long. It's completely vertical. It's probably no more than 3 millimeters wide, and it is so obviously a scratch on her freaking neck. And everybody noticed it at the police station. The law enforcement noticed it. Meredith's friends noticed it. You can see it in photographs, but a lot of those have been airbrushed, thanks to CNN and their propaganda. Anyway, she tries to sell it as a hickey in the series. So that's kind of what she does with like every little thing. You know, she took the mop from her apartment over to Raphael, her boyfriend of 6 days, and then she brought it back to the apartment. So, you know, she's trying to explain that away. She just tries to explain everything like she's mansplaining. It's insane. And there's so much that she leaves out, of course. So thanks to Nick with True Crime Rocket Science, I've learned a lot of in-depth information about the case, and I've pretty much watched everything that's available as far as the docu-series goes. And yeah, I mean, she does a lot of heinous things, including lie about her relationship with Raphael, who to this day, I think will say that he knew her for 6 days and that it destroyed his life. This was in 2007. He knew her for 6 days and it destroyed his life. And that was 18 years ago. I don't think Meredith knew her for more than about 6 weeks. And yeah, that pretty much not only destroyed Meredith's life, but everybody around Meredith. Completely destroyed. She destroyed Patrick, her boss's life, the guy who owned the bar that she worked at. I don't know if she destroyed Rudy, the guy who served about 20 years of a sentence for his involvement. I don't know if she destroyed his life or if he destroyed his life. I definitely think that he was in on it, but I think that she was the mastermind of the whole thing. Anyway, a lot of us thought that he would talk when he was finish serving his prison time, and he hasn't. And I wonder if he's probably been paid to stay silent, or threatened, or both. But yeah, she even in the series, she goes so far as to pretty much accuse Raphael of maybe having done it when she was asleep, and then framing her by putting her fingerprints on his sharp-edged object that had Meredith's red stuff DNA on it. That, that he might have put that sharp edge object in her hand while she was asleep to get her fingerprints on it, and then put it in his kitchen drawer. And then, essentially her whole spiel, like, to sum up, if you haven't watched it yet, Anna Bees, and maybe you have. Anna Bees says True Crime Rocket Science is hard to watch for me. Yeah, I don't like all of his stuff. Like, I think he got the Kylie Rodney case thing completely wrong. So I'm careful about what I watch of his, to be completely transparent about it. But he did an amazing job with the Meredith Kercher case. An amazing job. He's written half a dozen books about it. And also Roberta Glass has also done an amazing job about the Amanda Knox Meredith Kercher case. And she too, I have a hard time watching other stuff of hers. But the whole gist of Amanda's little mini series that she produced with Monica Lewinsky and some other people is that Italy is evil, and everybody there hates her, and they were just out to get her. And she was just kind of a bumbling fool, misunderstood. Essentially, that's the bottom line. So that's what she's trying to sell. And she really trashes Italy, like not only the law enforcement, but kind of the whole culture. It's pretty sick. I mean, sure, Italy has its underbelly. Every culture does. But she's trying to use that as a backdrop of the corruption that tried to pin something on her that she had nothing to do with. Complete and utter crap. Anyway, have you watched it yet? It is good in a sense. It's good because it's sickening. It's kind of hilarious how she tries to pivot each little freaking point and just totally playing the victim. Like, she's just like so concerned about herself and losing sight of the fact that someone close to her got slaughtered, like literally slaughtered, and not just taken out violently, but tortured and essayed. And there's a lot that they leave out. There's always so much that they leave out. So I want to get back over to the little E stuff too, because we always get the glossed over version from any crime. We get the glossed over version. For instance, in Meredith Kercher's case, there was evidence of trigger warning, evidence of backdoor action. And part of that evidence was a container of Vaseline that was in the room on the dresser with the lid off. And the Vaseline very, very rarely gets mentioned. And when it does, it's just slightly mentioned. It's not really said, like putting that together with all of the other stuff. But Amanda Knox is a rapist. She's a perp, just like Ghislaine. She's an absolute ex-offender, and she will deny that to the bitter end. She's got 2 children. It's pretty freaking scary to me. Anyway, the whole thing about how she pointed the finger at her boss, at Patrick, and then he was put in prison or jail for 2 weeks and lost his business, lost his family, lost everything. she tries to explain that away with, oh, I was just confused, but now I'm not. So she had her like first story, the one that she kind of barely strung together on day one. And then she had her revised version a couple of weeks later when she had a chance to manipulate more. I mean, she's just your classic manipulative, personality disordered scumbag, basically. So, yeah, she's evil, evil, evil. And she reminds me a lot of Scammy from the Kylie Rodney case. A lot of jealousy and kind of that queen bee crap. But I wanted to get back over to the little e-files because, again, we get the watered down version. The public gets the palatable version of these hideous, disgusting crimes. So, I'm constantly listening to podcasts while I'm doing whatever it is that I'm doing, which is why I often listen to them 2 or 3 times, because I might not have caught everything because I was busy taking care of business, getting my chores done, getting my exercise done. Just, there's a lot that I get done in a day. And at the same time, I've got quite the appetite to keep up with as much of this information as I can ingest. And Zorro Ranch, the property that Little E owned in New Mexico, I did not realize that was the largest private property parcel of land in the entire state. I'm going to look on my phone. I think it's 2,000 acres, but let me see what it says on Google. How many acres is Epstein's Zorro Ranch in New Mexico? 8,000 freaking acres. OMG. Holy crap. Oh my goodness. That's shocking. That is so shocking. I mean, I've known very wealthy people that have owned 1,000-acre plots, and like my great grandparents owned 100-acre plot, and that's a lot. I mean, land is like gold, if you own land, you're good to go. 8,000 acres, and that's just the one property in New Mexico, not to mention his island in the Virgin Islands, not to mention the townhouse that Les Wex gave him. We need to talk more about Les Wex too, because he's protected. Let's see what Anna Bees is saying. I wonder who owns it now. Well, probably Zorro Trust Incorporated. But actually, I had seen recently online that some other party purchased it. So we can look that up. But let me read to you what it says here. AI overview. Jeffrey E.'s Zorro Ranch in New Mexico was approximately 8,000 acres, combining owned and leased land. When it was put up for sale in 2021, the property officially contained 7,575 acres of deeded land, along with 423 acres, of leased Bureau of Land Management property. See, there's a lot of government ties. Like, that's a government tie with his property there. There's government ties with the townhouse in Manhattan that was gifted to him from Les Wex. The total size of the ranch was once larger, but a state lease for over 1,000 acres of grazing land had been canceled prior to the sale. The ranch was sold in 2023 for an undisclosed price. So when he purchased that land, he allegedly, he bragged about it becoming his baby farm, his little or large Handmaid's Tale estate. So I have a suspicion that maybe that happened, because what would be stopping him? Him and others like him, his affiliates. So I wonder, I really do wonder. And thinking about teenage pregnancy, and, you know, he and Jiz told or asked Virginia Giuffre to have his baby. So I don't think they said this, and I don't even know if Virginia might have said this, but I'll say it, is that so that they could traffic the baby too, is my opinion. But she refused. But when you're an ex-slave of someone, you don't have that agency, you don't have the autonomy. And you might not have birth control. And even with birth control, you can get pregnant. So I'm going to theorize that there were a lot of teen pregnancies going on with all this abuse, because teenagers are extremely fertile. The human body is at its, for women, is at the height of fertility in the late teens, like right around 17, 18, 19. If you're trying to have kids as an adult, it's pretty much all downhill from there, which is why if you haven't had a child by the time you're 40, it's going to be really hard to teach your body how to conceive and carry a child. You know, it's like a pathway that if your body has done it before and you're 50, it's not, you're not in the same like medical category as a new mom who's 50. Like that's a very dangerous thing for somebody to do at that late age, but it's not so dangerous if that 50-year-old has had previous successful pregnancies. Let me close my door real quick. I have a puppy dog in. Hey, baby. Hey, Coco. So, and you know, sometimes people have their first child at 51 and they're fine. That sister-in-law of Mitch McConnell, Angie Chow, she had her first child at about 50, 51. I don't know if that was surrogate or not. I think Nicole Wallace from MSNBC, I think she just had a baby at 51 that she actually gave birth to, but she had 2 children prior from her first marriage. So I just read that the other day, that she had a baby a few years ago, I think like 3 years ago. Very impressive. Anyway, my point is that little E liked teenagers, and that teenagers are very fertile. And if he wanted them to make babies, he might not have given them the authority, the discretion to decide if that's what they wanted or not. The one survivor that tells the story about trying to escape from Little E Island, the one the locals in the Virgin Islands call Pedo Island, that was Sarah Ransom. I wasn't sure when I mentioned it last week, and I was like, well, it might be Sarah Ransom that tells the story of how she tried to escape the island by swimming. And it was like, she wrote a book and she included that in it. And I don't know if she got scared and turned around. I don't know if there's sharks in that water. I don't know if she was caught. I would think if she was caught that she would have been punished severely. My guess is that there were sharks and she turned around, that maybe she got scared that if she didn't get eaten by a shark that she'd drown because it was just too far to swim to the next island. But I don't know. I haven't read her book. I would be interested in doing that. She will probably be one of the people to speak on Tuesday. to Congress. So I doubt she'll be bringing that part up, but you never know. Maybe. Let's see what Anna Bees is saying. The Rex business is profitable. Janet Jackson had a baby at 50, but was she pregnant? Because a lot of these people, like, it sounds nuts, but they'll fake their pregnancy and they'll use a surrogate. I mean, there's nothing wrong with using a surrogate, but I do think there's something wrong with faking a pregnancy, pretending that you gave birth to a baby that you didn't give birth to. I mean, just people in their lives, man, just be straightforward. Life is complicated enough when you're not trying to obfuscate the truth. So the thing about fertility and making babies, we talk about all the X that these MFs would perpetrate onto children, but the idea of any of them getting pregnant is not something that is really talked about in the e-files. Virginia Giuffre brought it up in some of her writings or interviews where she said that Jiz and little E requested or told her that they wanted her to make a baby, and I think that was like one of the straws that broke the camel's back, that she was just like, I got to get the hell out of here. So I don't know if she was pregnant or had a surrogate. Hey, DYI Drea, nice to see you. Super late again. Happy Friday. You're not super late. We're only 45 minutes in. And I've got a good chunk of time today. So if you guys got a good chunk of time, we'll see how long we can go for. And I do have a lot of notes. I'm kind of like just talking off the top of my head for the most part so far. The other thing that I want to speak on that just blew me away. And again, I was doing yard work today. And when I'm doing stuff that just totally relaxes me and is unrelated to any of this true crime, is when I have some clarity of thought. And I never really thought about, hey, Coco, what's up, baby girl? Come here. I never really thought about the teen pregnancy with the e-files, with the Trumpstein files. And I've also never really thought about the victims that did not survive. So, we know of the 3 that allegedly self-unalived, the 2 in hotels in West Palm Beach. One of those was an identical twin, and she was allegedly an addict and found in a seedy hotel room, I think around 2017. And I'll look up the names too, because it's terrible to not remember their names. And then the other one was the one who had 5 kids, was in a fancy hotel. And I think they said both of those were like accidental ODs. But I also think that both of those people had been sober. It's possible to be sober and then relapse, of course, but it's also an easy way to set it up to make it look like natural, accidental, self-inflicted misadventure, right? But yeah, then you got Virginia, and then there's this girl, I think her name was Maria, who was like 12 years old, who Katie Johnson, the Jane Doe, wrote about in her lawsuit that she filed against the Trumpster fire in 2016, the one that she filed 3 times that year and withdrew. In the body of that lawsuit, it mentions this 12-year-old girl, Maria, that I think little E or little T had said, you better cooperate or you'll end up like Maria, and that nobody had seen Maria since some specific incident. And yeah, how many are there? How many are there that are no longer alive, that are like unaccounted for and off the record. If they were runaways, if they were addicts, if they were, let's say, the child of one of the captive slaves, and maybe they didn't even have a birth certificate. How many deceased are there? One of the metaphors that is used in true crime is like, he knows where the bodies are hidden, right? He knows where to find the bodies. And, Jizz would know where to find the bodies. And it might not be just metaphorical. It could be literal. So I think that that's a place that I don't go too often. Of course, I've thought about it, like with that Maria and like with Sarah Ransom trying to swim off the island. I figure if she got caught that they might have offed her. So I figure that she probably didn't get caught since she did eventually escape. But see, Sarah Ransom was older too when she was captured and held captive. She was 22. And it's harder for the victims that are of adult age to build a case, unfortunately, because it shouldn't be. I mean, doing that to anybody at any age is ridiculously illegal. Them being underage is just that much more heartless and disgusting. Excuse me. Yes, the hoax. It's all just a hoax. Yeah, none of that would ever happen. That's all just a hoax. Everyone's just trying to victimize Dear Leader, and he literally says that all these fake victims are just trying to make him look bad. He literally has said that recently, that they're probably all Democrats and that they all hate him, and they're all probably paid by the Democratic Party just to try to tear him down. It's just like, people aren't going to put their names and their faces on the line to make accusations like that are embarrassing at best, extremely shameful, but also extremely dangerous. Like, you can get into a lot of legal trouble for making fake accusations, but you can also become disappeared from making fake accusations, or your loved ones can get hurt. So it's just freaking nuts when these damn perps try to play the victim. Him and Amanda Knox, right? Let's see. So what was I going to look up? So the ties that Little E had with the New Mexico government cannot be underestimated, because being the property owner of the largest privately owned parcel of land in the entire state, that's huge. It's absolutely huge. So, the theory that our administration and the theory that they try to dispute all the time, the obvious theory, is that this was just your classic honeypot scheme. And for anybody who doesn't know what that is, it's kind of your Occam's razor, your very simple explanation of having hot chicks underage and getting dignitaries, wealthy people to do unspeakable things with them, and then having documentation of that, and then being able to blackmail these people. So it's pretty straightforward. And that's also something that Diddy was doing, allegedly. But it's certainly, it's nothing new. It's not unique to Little E. It's not unique at all. But getting dirt on people is how people get leverage, and more so than money, even, that is power. And you can't buy silence, you can only rent it. So some serious stuff, and that is very likely the backbone of the entire the entire existence, I bit my tongue, of little E and Jiz is, and probably what her father did too. That kind of a sting operation where they're trying to get people compromised so that they can negotiate with them, to put it mildly, to sugarcoat it so that they can leverage against people to get what they want, basically. And, you know, the thing about the politicians in DC, the politicians in New Mexico, the politicians around the world, these people go way back. I mean, our El Presidente goes back 40 years with Jiz and her daddy. So in my last live, the day before yesterday, I read the Wikipedia about Lev Parnas, and it wasn't until after I read it out loud and a couple hours later that it really sank in for me, like how many mobsters basically the Trumpster fire has had extremely close ties with for decades, absolutely for decades. Lev Parnas is just one of the few who both served time because of what he did for little T, and little T threw him under the bus and said he didn't know him, he didn't know anything about any of it, right? So not only did he serve hard time, but he's also flipped on him. So he's come out of prison and is speaking his truth and trying to warn people basically about who this person is that's president. So Lev Parnas and Michael Cohen both went to prison. Both have done that. But Michael Cohen, I believe, is fully compromised still. I think that Lev is probably connected with people from his home country that can keep him safe. I don't think that Michael Cohen has that same luxury. So very few people are going to speak out against a ruthless thug with no scruples that would be described as a ruthless thug with no scruples by the likes of little E. Even very few people are going to speak out against him. There are victims who have named Dear Leader as one of the people that they were trafficked to, and I believe that every single one of them has either retracted their statements or is no longer living. I don't think there's anybody alive who is pointing the finger in that direction, which is crazy. If that's something true, if there's truth to that, which I believe that there is, I don't think people would be making crazy statements like that. And then like Virginia Giuffre, to quote her, that well, it was actually about Dershowitz, that she said, oh, I must have mistaken him for somebody else. But with Trumpster fire, she said that she misremembered and that she didn't remember ever seeing him anywhere doing anything bad. You know, I mean, what are you going to do? You kind of don't really have a choice. International Rex business, it's all connected. It is. And so it's really sickening because, you know, you get just a few people, you get like Diddy and little E that are kind of the sacrificial lambs. I'm not trying to say that anybody should have any sympathy for them whatsoever, but it's all pinned on the one person as if they did it all single-handedly. And even with Jiz Max as his assistant, little E and jizz couldn't have done that without having like a market for it, right? I mean, it's a big operation, taking people out of the country on airplanes, taking their passports. I mean, and then you have to feed them, you have to house them, you have to manage them, you have to manipulate them, you have to subdue them. You got to keep them in line. And that's tricky business. You got to be like highly skilled with the mind effery, right? It's very, very unpleasant. Let me look at my notes and see what else I'm talking about here. So yeah, like even like the chef, you know, you've got the people flying the plane, you've got the chefs, you've got the housekeeping, you've got the grounds crew, you've got all of these people that are going to be privy to this, that are going to keep their mouths shut because they're scared to death. Jimmy Kimmel's friend, who's a famous chef. Jimmy Kimmel's friend, who's a famous chef. What's not working? Jimmy Kimmel, friend. Let's see. Friend who it was Epstein's chef. This guy, Adam Perry Lang. Okay, this is what AI says. The chef and restaurateur with ties to both Jimmy Kimmel and Little E is Adam Perry Lang. A longtime friend of Kimmel, Lang was also Little E's private chef between 1999 and 2003. Lang is a well-known chef in Hollywood, and he and Kimmel have a long-standing friendship that began when Lang worked as a chef on Kimmel's show. Kimmel has also supported Lang's culinary endeavors, including his Hollywood steakhouse. Lang was Little E's private chef during the early 2000s and traveled with him on his private jet to Little E Island. Following news reports in 2019 that revealed his past employment, Lang stated that his role was, quote, limited to meal preparation, and that he was, quote, unaware of the depraved behavior. Cooperation with authorities. After Little E's passing, Lang's attorney confirmed that Lang was cooperating with federal authorities investigating Little E's ex-trafficking ring. And yeah, it goes on to talk about Aaron Rodgers. So, you know, Kimmel is a great comedian, in my opinion, and he is a hater of the Trumpster fire. And then he's got a friend like that, Adam Perry Lang, who allegedly has a lot of dirt on Little E and maybe on T also. Maybe. And maybe Adam is scared for his life. But it's just so wild. My point in sharing that is really to demonstrate the long history that these people have together and the overlapping. Like, you know, I'm always talking about Kimberly Guilfoyle, Governor Newsom's ex-wife, who was engaged to Don Jr. for 5 years. And, you know, think about the dirt that Kimberly has on, what is Governor Newsom's first name? I can't even remember right now. Anyway, it doesn't really matter, does it? Do you know, Annabise? I'll ask Google. It's annoying. California Governor Newsom. Gavin. I knew that. Gavin Newsom. So thinking about the dirt that Kimberly would have on Gavin Newsom, and maybe for all we know, because we know that Gavin Newsom and Kamala Harris dated at some point in time. You know, they're both politicians from San Francisco, but maybe Gavin cheated on his wife, Kimberly, with the ex-vice president. I don't know. But it's things like that, you know, these situations politically just snowball the dirt that these people have on each other. It's crazy, is it not? I really liked Oprah, but I'm starting to think where there's smoke, there's fire. Yeah, Anna Bees, I really liked Oprah too until the Lahaina fires, and when she made that little 8-minute video with The Rock asking people to donate their money, asking hard-working regular people to donate their money to the Lahaina fire victims. And I'm thinking, bitch, you could donate like 1% of your fortune and help more people than the rest of us could help, forking over money that we can't really afford to be so generous with. That just infuriated me. I immediately was very offended. And then from there, there's just a lot of weird crap about Oprah. When she was basically busting into the facility where the survivors of the Lahaina fire, where they were staying. And she went in there with pillows and she was like trying to give away the pillows. So like she went to Costco and maybe Walmart on Maui and bought all the pillows that they had, maybe blankets too. But then she went to the location, a place where you were only allowed to go in if you were one of the fire victim survivors. You weren't allowed in if you were not one of those. And she just strolled right in, and the people that were there were very offended. And I found it very suspicious. It's sort of like, I don't know, Barry Morphew being on the search crew for Suzanne Morphew when she went missing. It's very common, scammy, organizing the searches for Kylie Rodney. It's very common for the perps to try to put themselves in the center of the investigation. Like, they want to know what's going on. So Oprah going in there without the authority to go in there made me so suspicious. So suspicious. I mean, it's entirely possible that there were some powers that be in the Maui fires that created that catastrophic nightmare to do a land grab. There was all of the documentation about the water rights, about the land rights, going back to the people that were native to the land. There was even the what is that called? Not reconciliation, not retribution, but the money that they were going to be paying money back to natives too. What is that called? When slaves are paid money for their descendants, their ancestry. I didn't say that well, but it probably will know what I'm talking about. Yeah, reparations. That's what I'm talking about. So yeah, there were massive reparations that natives who had inherited the land and they had fought for their water rights, and then they were going to be getting paid reparations from the state of Hawaii, and all of that literally went up in smoke when the fires happened. So it's hard to not be suspicious of that whole thing. There were so many colonies of feral cats that were extremely problematic on that island that don't exist anymore because of those fires. The colony of essentially homeless people who lived really well for homeless out there in what did they call it? I think they called it Lahaina country or Maui country, but it was like um, basically where people were living off the land. And I think a lot of those people probably lost their lives and they're unaccounted for in the 101 or 102 that they say passed away. I think everybody that is from Maui is fully aware that there's hundreds, if not thousands, of fire victims from that Lahaina fire last summer. Was it last summer or the summer before? I think it was just a year ago, wasn't it? It's hard to keep up, isn't it? Let's see. Lahaina fires. Maui fires, Lahaina. The death toll. Oh, it's 106 now. How did that happen? See, some of these people that were probably burned over 50% of their body probably passed away. So it was 2 years ago. It was August 2023. I knew that. Wow. Because, yeah, after 1 year, they said there was 102 confirmed fatalities. They tried to keep it down to 100, which was the same number as the fatalities that happened in that, that nightclub in Rhode Island. I think it was called The Station. Anyway, they tried to make it so that it was this not the largest number of fatalities of fire victims in the United States in modern times, but they failed. So slowly, after a year, it climbed up to 102, and now 2 years later, it's climbed up to 106. But still, that's nowhere near people that suspect it to be so much higher. And it's just nuts. Absolutely nuts. I agree with you about that. So one of the little E victims survivors that's probably going to be speaking on Tuesday is named Courtney Wild. And I've heard Courtney Wild speak publicly before. She actually believed what little E and Jizz Max told her, which they told her that she was a child prostitute. And she believed them because she was so damaged from the abuse that she had suffered from them and the abuse that she had suffered prior to them. So she was ashamed to step forward. She didn't feel like she was entitled the same type of sympathy and criminal charges against these people because she believed the brainwashing that she was a child prostitute, which it's not even possible to be that. That's a victim of trafficking, period. So another thing that I wanted to say that I don't want to say, so trigger effing warning, is talking about fatalities that may have happened with some victims. Obviously, when you have this going on for decades with 1,000 victims, you're obviously going to have fatalities. That's just a numerical likelihood. You know, even if it's something like, let's say, a diabetic coma or something, you know, some unforeseen, or a drowning that happens when you try to escape. But what about snuff films and just snuff in general? People will pay extra for that, you know. And I'm sorry, trigger warning again and again. Again, it's something that I never thought about until today while I was doing my yard work. Like these are the lovely thoughts that I have while I'm doing my yard work. And again, it's like you don't want your mind to go there, but obviously there is a propensity for that with a lot of criminals, a lot of sick people. So what about that secret meeting that JD Vance was going to have with Blondie Bondi and Cash Patel, Bongholio? Remember, they were all having that secret meeting, like a dinner meeting or something, at Vance's house, because they were trying to figure out how to control this crisis over the Little E narrative and how to bail Dear Leader out of the picture. And then it was leaked that they were going to have this meeting. And then they were like, what meeting? We weren't going to have no meeting. We don't even know what you're talking about. Frickin' idiots, man. Absolute idiots. So I think I have 2 more pages of notes that there's just no way I'm going to get through them all. Okay, so the thing about Amanda Knox, this was her explanation in the movie of when she wrongly implicated her boss, Patrick, the owner of the club. I think his last name is like Patrick Moomba or Loomba. And then the club that he owned was called Le Chic. And it was like a restaurant and bar. Anyway, the way she explained pointing the finger at him by accident in her little documentary is that she says, I completely spazzed out and accidentally implicated Patrick. Literally, Anna Bees, if you haven't watched it yet, look for that part. I think it's in episode 3. I completely spazzed out. Like, that's how that happened, was she completely spazzed out. What an effing nut. And she felt just awful about the whole thing. But she was just so concerned about her own hiney and no concern about any of these other people around her. Oh, and like I was saying about Raphael Solicio, the boyfriend, that she says to this day that they're still friends, that they were romantic for those 6 days and that they've been friends ever since. And I think I said this earlier, but I don't know if I said the whole thing. He says he knew her for 6 days and it destroyed his life. But she tries to sell to the public that they're still friends. Absolutely sickening. So what do I have here? The Maxwell family was extremely powerful. You know, when you buy ink by the barrel, when you own the newspapers, you can have a lot of influence over everybody. You know, you can publish one nasty article about someone and ruin their reputation, or you can publish a glowing article about someone and help them win an election. Who knows? The possibilities are endless. But just something to think about with the Maxwells. So interesting that all of these people that Trumpster Fire is having their mortgage histories investigated, right? What an easy way to target people. What an easy way to target people. And is he having access to private information looked at in an illegal way? I mean, we know that all of our social security numbers were compromised by Doge, right? Do I have any more coffee left? I do. But yeah, I mean, they've got access to everybody's information. And then his enemies are getting investigated for mortgage fraud. He's the one with the mortgage fraud. Always the accusations or the confessions, right? Projection and confession. He's going after everyone. Yeah, isn't he? I mean, he's just spinning out of control right now. He's trying to do anything that he can to distract from the gloom and doom of Tuesday looming at the end of this weekend. I literally wouldn't be surprised if the entire planet gets obliterated with nuclear war over the weekend. He will do anything that he can to avoid suffering the consequences of his own actions. Yes, little T always projects. And and I hate to say that. I mean, I'm saying those words out loud hoping that I am completely wrong and that I'm going to jinx it. But he's also a micromanager. Did you know this about him, Annabise? He is like the supreme micromanager. He wants to tell everybody how to do their jobs. He wants to tell like reporters what kinds of questions they should ask. He wants to tell Americans what kind of thoughts they can have. It's nuts. Absolutely nuts. What else? So who is this? Anishka DiGiorno. Let me type that in. I don't think I can trust the voice to text with that name. ANASKADIGORGIEO. I think that this is one of the survivors that might be speaking on Tuesday. She's a model, and let me put in model. There we go. How British teen model was lured into Little E's web. Anushka, ANOUSKA de Giorgio. It's DE and then GEORGIOU. She grew up in an affluent family and says she fell into Little E's circle of abuse through well-connected friends. She is Little E's first alleged British victim. So I'm sure that Maria Farmer and Annie Farmer will be testifying on Tuesday. I would imagine that Sarah Ransom will also be testifying. It sure would be nice if Virginia Giuffre could testify, and the two others. I was going to look up their names. Two other Epstein abuse survivors who died of suicide other than Virginia Giuffre. It's just telling me Virginia. Let's see. Try this again. Three Epstein abuse survivors who died by suicide. It only wants to tell me about Virginia. I think that's interesting that it doesn't want to talk about the others. But I think one of them was named like Adrian. I think that's the first one. 2 Epstein sex abuse survivors found dead in hotels in West Palm Beach. Carolyn Adriano was 14 when it started. And then who was the other one? Carolyn Adriano was the one from 2 years ago. So she was the one who testified against Ghislaine, I think. Okay, yeah. So this is what it says. Carolyn Adriano passed on May 23rd, 2023 at the age of 36. Her passing was ruled an accidental OD of methadone, fentanyl, and olazapam. She had testified against Jiz Max in 2021 and spoke openly about using rugs to cope with the trauma of her abuse by little E, which began when she was 14. And then prior to her passing 2 years ago, 8 years ago in 2017, Lee Sky Patrick passed in 2017 at the age of 29. Like Adriano, she was found in a hotel room in West Palm Beach. Her twin sister reported in 2019 that Patrick had struggled with addiction since meeting little E. So those are the three of the victims that we know of that are passed away. I'm going to bet that there's a ton more, right? He's going after everyone. Yes, little T always projects. He is doing such crazy things. I can't believe no one will stop him. So I guess ICE went to Washington State yesterday, maybe. And like I had only learned that the Hoh Rainforest was on fire a few days ago. And I've been to the Hoh Rainforest. I've camped there. It's in the Olympic National Forest. And it's kind of like a joke to think of the rainforest on fire because it rains there every freaking day. Like, I think it's like 300 inches of rain a year. So it's really pretty, but if you camp there, you're camping in the rain, which is not very fun. I didn't think that all the way through before we planned that camping trip. But anyway, I'm glad that we went because it was super cool, beautiful. And I've been out that way to the Hoh Rainforest a number of times. That's the only time I've camped there. Anyway, ICE went out to the Hoh Rainforest during the forest fire, took all of the firefighters off of their duty of fighting the fire for 3 hours so that they could check all their IDs. This is pretty much all Native Americans that were fighting the fires, and they arrested 2 of them. I'm surprised that it wasn't more than 2 that didn't have proper identification, because when you're Native, you don't always have like the white people's ID stuff all figured out and handy. I mean, it's just not the way they operate. So, but that's just crazy. Like, they couldn't get the federal help out to Texas for 5 days or a week when all of those kids drowned in the terrible flood that happened on the 4th of July. Guadalupe River. It took them 5 days at least to get FEMA out there. But then you've got federal authorities going to Washington State to the Hoh Rainforest. Do you know how remote the Hoh Rainforest is? Like, you have to fly to Seattle and then drive down through Tacoma and Olympia and then out to the coast and then up to get into the Hoh Rainforest. I don't think you can even get there from the northern peninsula, like going across the Bainbridge Island ferry and across the Hood Canal and through Port Townsend and Port Angeles and Sequim and Forks. I don't think that the road connects. I don't think that it goes, like, I don't think it's a full loop. I think to go to the Hoh Rainforest, you have to go the southern route. But either way, it's really far out of the way. It's like probably altogether a 3 or 4 hour drive from the airport. So they can get all of the ICE agents out there, but they can't get FEMA to the victims in Texas when they're having like the most horrific crisis imaginable. This crap is out of control. Yeah, isn't that insane? It's insane enough that the Hoh Rainforest was on fire. Like, I had no idea that there was that severe of a drought going on in Washington State. Like, I knew that they were dealing with a drought, which is not normal in Washington State. I mean, that's normal in California, not normal in the Pacific Northwest. But to know that it's been that severe, I think for 3 summers in a row, so severe that the freaking rainforest is able to burn, that's just nuts. It's completely insane. Oh, this is great. Oh, I'm so glad I saw this note to share. Jiz Max. We know that she contradicted so many things that Big E has said. She contradicted things that Little T has said recently. She really misspoke a few times. I think because she was in prison and she wasn't briefed, so she didn't know all of these things that those 2 men had said recently about her or about Little E. But she also cleared Bill Clinton of any and all wrongdoing or ever even being around, which is hilarious when Dear Leader has been dropping his name with like 28 trips on Lolita Express. So Jiz is either a liar or Dear Donnie's a liar or both. My guess is both. Anyway, I thought that was great. It probably pissed off the Trumpster fire to no end. So yeah, she probably won't get a pardon because she screwed up and cleared Clinton. But also, like, her clearing anybody is just asinine. She's a felon. She is a liar. She is a horrible, horrible person. Like, why would you trust anything she ever said about anything at all? Even the price of eggs, right? We won't get into that one. Yeah, I just thought that was great. But this is a really good point too. That even if Dear Donnie has done nothing wrong in regards to Little E and the X transporting, even in the event that he did nothing wrong, he's doing everything wrong in the covering up. The cover up is completely, like, illegal doesn't even begin to describe it. You know, I mean, that was wrong with Watergate. Like, Watergate was criminal activity, but what was even worse was the cover up. And here we have a cover up that overshadows Watergate like 100 times over, in my opinion. But this is really, really good too. I think I got this from the Political Punk. I think it was his channel. That if it wasn't his channel, I'll have to think of who it was so I can kick them credit, because this is brilliant. That little E had no club when he was stealing the spa people, you know, the towel girl that Dear Leader was so mad at him for stealing. What did Trumpster Fire think little E was stealing the towel girl for? Because he didn't have a spa. He didn't need a towel girl. You think he knew what he was stealing her for? Poaching her, to use Donnie's words? And who the F calls a person a towel girl? An employee. How about just employee? A towel girl. Like, when I really thought about it, it was a few weeks ago, I thought, I wonder if like spa person and towel girl, I wonder if that's code. Sorry, brace yourself, trigger warning. Basically for cum rag. I apologize. That's gross. But really, towel girl? So the book that Virginia wrote that's coming out in 2 months is called Nobody's Girl. And yeah, she had emailed the co-author 2 weeks prior to her passing away. The book is going to be 400 pages, and everything in it is legally and factually vetted. It's coming out October 21st. What else? I think that's pretty much it. That there's going to be some heartbreaking new details in that book, so we should all brace ourselves. I wonder if it's going to be talking about lives lost or something, babies born. So something that nobody's talked about in a very long time, and I keep meaning to talk about it and I keep forgetting, because again, it's so unpleasant to speak such horrors. As much as these gross dudes and jizz are effing perverts, as much as they're money grubbing, desperate scoundrels without a freaking clue of what really matters in this world, what they really enjoyed, allegedly, it wasn't just the money, it wasn't just the shits and giggles, it wasn't just the getting their rocks off. Allegedly, what they really enjoyed was instilling fear in people. So much of the thrill with the ex abuse was to see the fear in these little girls' eyes when they would disrobe in front of them or do whatever the F they were doing. That was much of the goal. That was how they got entertainment. It made them laugh. They thought it was funny, allegedly. But it makes me think of like the Rocky Horror Picture Show and what the Brits have been doing for centuries, allegedly, chasing children through the mansion, unaliving them. That's where you get into that whole adrenochrome thing. Like that's like a hormone from the red stuff that is only released during extreme fear. And the adrenochrome, allegedly, these cult types, it's like an aphrodisiac, or it has magical powers. Maybe it's like the fountain of youth. I don't even know. And it is so effing crazy, but that is a thing. Let's see what what the artificial intelligence says about it. Adrenochrome. Adrenochrome. Just says it's a chemical compound produced by the oxidation of adrenaline. It was the subject of limited research from the 50s through the 70s as a potential cause of schizophrenia. Adrenochrome has no currently proven medical application. The semi-carbazide derivative carbazochrome is a homeostatic medication. Adrenochrome is mass produced and commercially available to the public and is not a controlled substance. Weird. So something like mescaline, so it gets you intoxicated. And it's mentioned in A Clockwork Orange. That's a twisted movie. The protagonist and his friends are drinking drug-laced milk. They had no license for selling liquor, but there was no law yet against prodding some of the new vesquishes, which they used to put into the old moloko, so you could peat it with volocint or synthamask or adrenochrome or two other. Okay, this is all crazy stuff. And then Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Adrenochrome is the subject of several conspiracy theories, including QAnon and Pizzagate, in which, this is what I was looking for, in which the chemical plays a similar role to Titanic ritual abuse stories. The theories commonly state that a cabal of theistic Satanists grape and red rum children and harvest adrenochrome from their victims' red stuff as a recreational drug or as an elixir of youth, similar to children's red stuff infusions. In reality, adrenochrome has been produced by organic synthesis since at least 1952, is synthesized for research purposes by biotechnology companies who will then sell it to anyone. It is not a controlled substance. Any medical or recreational use of the chemical is effortless to access, negating the need for expensive and dangerous process of child abduction. Well, that's weird. Why would they even be talking about it then? But see, it's not just the adrenochrome that they're after. They're after the whole experience, right? It's out of control. It's nuts. Sorry to go off the deep end there. But yeah, I mean, these people are demented, developmentally arrested. I mean, what a waste of humanity to be focused on such things and such destruction, you know, to get your jollies by hurting other people. I guess that's just the criminal mindset. But doesn't that seem so much like what Dear Leader enjoys right now in his all-powerful position as probably the most powerful world leader? Like, he just loves sending out tweets or truths. He loves truthing. You know, so-and-so's fired. I hate so-and-so. And yeah, Taylor Swift, she was announcing her engagement a few days ago, and Dear Donnie, like, said that he thought she was awesome and he wished her well. I think he forgot about the whole hate thing, the whole like trying to take her down. The whole thing about how she wasn't hot anymore. What a nutbag, man. He is not getting into heaven. What? Anna Bees? Why don't you think so? Man, and he's so fixated on it. It's like, dude, you maybe should have thought about this before. At this point, I don't think there's anything he could do to undo all of the evil that he's perpetrated. But yeah, it's pretty wild the way he keeps talking about it. And those freaking cankles, man. Why can't he just admit whatever medical situation he's got going on, since it's so effing obvious? And he could just get the treatment that he needs. He could bring it down a notch. I mean, he's gonna crash and burn, you know. You got JD Vance, I think it was, bragging about how, you know, Dear Leader is the one, like the last one to go to sleep every night out of everyone in the administration and the first one to wake up every morning. It's like, that's not a good thing. Like, you need your rest, not just your beauty rest. You need your rest in order to survive and to heal and to thrive. I mean, we know that he's an insomniac. He's up all night truthing, trying to like blow up the world with his freaking Truth Social. Congestive heart failure. Yeah. Exactly. And the IVs, you know, for Caroline lying biatch to say that he had that bruise on the back of his hand because he's just such a nice man and he's out there shaking everybody's hand more than anyone's ever shaken hands in all of humanity. Like, excuse me? Like, are you stupid? Because the public is not that stupid. Nobody's buying your damn handshaking story. Like, in the event that you were shaking hands hard and getting bruised, you wouldn't be getting bruised right here. You'd be getting bruised around here, you freak. But it's almost like they have fun with how they can just make these insane lies and pass crap off like that. That, you know, they think just because they've made a response that that's like checked off the list. They've made a response. It's all good. Next. It's completely nonsensical. It's completely crazy. But I am going to wrap it up, Anna Bees. Thank you so much for being here, my darling. I hope you have a really good weekend. Are you working this weekend? I am hoping to be busy with my YouTubing. I'll be doing some family stuff too. But Anna's got the weekend off. Cool. So yeah, I'm going to try to do lives each day, Sunday or Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I'll probably skip one of the days, but yeah, I skipped yesterday and I don't like skipping. I'd rather be making my videos than not making my videos. So thanks for being here, my dear. I hope you have a really good weekend. And I'm excited because the end of the weekend is Tuesday, and unless Dear Leader blows up the freaking world, we're going to have some real news happening on Tuesday. I mean, the whole thing with Dershowitz saying that Jizz Max was the Rosetta Stone of the e-files. It's like, no. The 10 victims that are scheduled to speak on Tuesday, those are the Rosetta Stones of the e-files, you effing pig. I mean, he's implicated as much as anyone else. But he, too, I think, pays people off and threatens their personal safety and threatens their family members. Alan Dershowitz is so disgusting. You know, the pierogi guy, the guy who's suing to get pierogies from the farmer's market on Martha's Vineyard. He's probably going to be up there this weekend naked, trying to buy pierogies in the buff. Because yeah, those islands are really busy over Labor Day weekend, and then they pretty much pack it all in come Monday night, and then the Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket Island are pretty empty up until Memorial Day. So Memorial Day to Labor Day, they're just hopping, but the day after Labor Day, it's over. So yeah, he better get all of his pierogies and all of his nudity while he can. He's only got 3 days left. Gross thoughts. I know, when I found out that he hangs out on the nude beach up there, I was just like, oh, TMI. I can't. I mean, he's gross enough with all his damn clothes on. Like, why? Why, dude? That's disgusting. If you want to run around disrobed, do it in private, man. Don't be subjecting total strangers to have to see your freaking crap. That's insane. That is really sick. He is one sick puppy. I think he worked on the Alex Acosta sweetheart deal. I'm pretty sure, Alan Dershowitz, that he wasn't like one of the named attorneys on there, but that he helped cook that up. But we know that Alex Acosta is now scheduled to have a conversation about said deal. He's scheduled for September 19th. So 3 weeks from now. That'll be good, but there's a lot more. Dershowitz needs to be deposed, man. But you know, he's like your legal eagle. He'll worm his way out of everything. I don't want to picture it, but I'm sure his man junk, his huevos touch the water when, oh, hilarious Annabes, when he takes a dump, his huevos touch the toilet water. TMI, trigger warning, retroactive. That's too funny. Funny, not funny. No, let's we better wrap it up so we can all go vomit, right? So thanks for being here. Love and light. Have a really good rest of your evening. And don't picture that, but that is funny. So I appreciate the laughter out of the El Disgusto. Yeah, you're fine. You don't need to apologize. I think it's hilarious. Anyway, hopefully I'll see you guys tomorrow, and make sure you eat your veggies and your protein and drink your water. And most importantly, that's the best thing to do, is to just be yourself. Everybody else is already taken, so no one else that you should be other than you.